Okay, so this is my first live, so please bear with me while I navigate this. The comments aren't showing up on my laptop here, but they are on the phone, so I might have to just lean forward like this. There we go. Great. I can see the comments on my laptop. It's going to make it a lot easier. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining in. Fantastic. I can see everybody's comments here. Okay, great. I think let's begin. All right, so the energy has been incredibly intense the last week or so. And I released an update, it was on the 15th, that we had a wave of solar coding coming in that was streaming in, okay, carrying crystalline light codes. And this was has been assisting with DNA upgrades, okay, to do with moving from the carbon-based DNA strand to that of the crystalline light body. So a very significant activation has taken place for individuals within the collective this week. And with every activation that takes place, there is a very significant purge that takes place with this. When this wave of light came in, what took place is that with this highly conductive plasma, there is a synergetic resonance that takes place with certain individuals within the collective. And what happens is with this resonance, okay, with this synergy and amplification of the energy, almost the form of a vortex portal takes place due to the collaboration of certain individuals in the collective, the synergy in motion. And the portal, due to this energy influx, the high conductivity of this plasma, is the next step in the thinning of the veil. And with this, the thinning of the veil, okay, the entire process, with every activation that takes place, a very significant purge will take place. When our DNA is activated, when the lights turn on in our physical form, when we're moving to the crystalline light body, anything that is acting as density or resistance in the physical form from the past relating to traumas, and in this case, this past week, the wounded masculine. So the wounded masculine has stood out, and there has been a clearing transmutation for the wounded masculine. And this is directly connected to the root chakra, where individuals base their fears in life, which has been taken on as programming from childhood. So there has been a release and transmutation of the fear-based programming associated to the masculine energy. So every time there is an activation of any significance, okay, there can be a turbulent period for a few days while that transmutation, that release of that density from the physical form takes place, in order for the acclimation to that new state of being, the higher vibrational state of being, where the individual is activated, okay? And with this, some of the clear senses will also come online, or if already online, with these activations and amplification of these senses takes place. Hence, the synchronicity I just spoke of the vortex portal with the synergetic resonance, the thinning of the veil. That's the third eye opening, the crown chakra opening with these activations. The opening of the channels of communication, seeing into other dimensional planes of existence, the veil thinning and opening up the channels of communication with the higher self and our guides, with our DNA being the communication medium, all right, that works hand in hand with the chakra energy centers. So it was a crystalline light code influx. Okay, and we've seen this, and this is happening simultaneously with Gaia, like with every significant influx. So we've seen Gaia respond energetically. We've seen a number of larger earthquakes again. This year we've seen very large earthquakes, an indication when the light comes in. I've explained this before. Okay, through the sun, the solar coding, we, as the light workers, the collective consciousness, are assisting with grounding the light down into the core of the earth. The core of the earth is then charged up, and thus then there is an overflow of light. With this overflow of light, with the collective grounding it and Gaia simultaneously, one assisting the other overflow of light plasma, everything becomes highly conductive. And within this process, the activations take place. And we have seen the large earthquakes of the last week in the high 6 magnitude range. If you do follow the earthquake updates, we've also seen a change in weather patterns. We've seen tornadoes. We've seen, I believe, off the coast of the USA, there has been some extreme weather as well. So a change in weather patterns, earthquakes. We've also seen, like this year, the human resonance graph, which I've done another video on if you'd like to go see, where I explain the whiteouts and blackouts. And I created a color chart explaining the different color schemes on the chart, the blue, the red, the green, and the whiteouts. Okay, so the whiteouts is an indication of when the lightning discharges take place due to the high conductivity of the plasma. And this is an indication and a reflection of the light codes, the 5D light coding that is present. And during this process, so it's not only during the whiteouts on the human resonance graph, it's before and afterwards, as there is a process of integration that takes place when going through any activation. So there's been a lot of evidence, once again, okay, that there is a lot of light flooding the earth plane. And at times, when you notice the human resonance graph spiking through the 40 hertz, above the 40 hertz marker, that is an indication that 5D gamma light is flooding the earth plane. An extremely high frequency light bandwidth. And during this period, just before and after, when we see this kind of light flooding the earth plane, and this is taking place once the earth's core is charged up and the overflow of light takes place, where the frequency on the planet is extremely high, there is a high vibration, okay, which is uncomfortable at times due to the light embodiment process. But if you notice during this period, hand in hand with the uncomfortable states of being, that there is almost a super consciousness for periods in time, where there is a heightened awareness of all things. Okay? And with this heightened awareness, with the light embodiment, there is the contrast. Thus, we see the chaos unfolding in the world. So when there is chaos, when there is a lot of drama, it's an indication that there is a lot of light present on the earth plane. That is the contrast. And it's, as we know, everyone listening to this, it's a choice with free will. The light and the dark is always a choice. And with free will, you can tune into which experience is light and dark and draw from that experience a positive outcome regardless. Okay? And choose to whether perpetuate the cycle of that interaction with the darkness or to align with the light. At the same time, being aware of the darkness, but not becoming the darkness, by not giving energy to that thing, that experience, perpetuating that thing, that experience. So the last week for me, on an individual level, has been very turbulent energetically. Okay? through this light embodiment process, and this is not the first time, we've had many, many light influxes, okay? Every light influx is unique, okay? They carry specific coding. Some of them will have a focus on different chakra energy centers. Some of them, okay, may activate a portion of the collective. Some of the waves of light flooding in will activate a larger portion of the collective consciousness. All perfectly designed and orchestrated by the beings of light who are assisting. I've spoken about the Arcturians, who are one of the collective consciousnesses of the beings of light who are assisting with the coding, the technology that goes into it, that floods the earth plane. There are a number under the umbrella of the Galactic Federation of Light. You will know of the Pleiadians, the Sirians. I've just mentioned the Arcturians, the Andromedans, okay? Working with the Ascended Masters, all these beings of light under the Galactic Federation of Light, overseeing the ascension of Gaia and the collective consciousness. So a very, very turbulent week, energetically. And a lot of what has been felt, as each individual is an individual and the experience will be slightly different to the person next to them, although this is very much connected to a clearing for the wounded masculine, and the wounded masculine connected to the root chakra. So the fear-based programming, all the way dating back to childhood, that has been passed down by generations by the distortion of what the divine masculine energy is. The patriarchy, the abuse of power, narcissism, all of this under the umbrella of what would be expressed by an individual, whether the individuals are in positions of power or not, as narcissism, okay, where the wounded masculine energy, in essence, from this wound, because it is so painful from childhood and all these experiences, trauma, an individual cuts off their emotions, okay? Some may, at periods of time, for times, cut it off. During this reality experience, okay, we've all expressed or projected narcissistic traits at times, okay? Although when it comes to the heavy programming, the severe narcissism, the abuse of power, when someone completely cuts off the emotion, when there is no empathy, compassion for another individual, when there is a complete and utter abuse of power. With this distortion, the wounded masculine energy, also the psychological warfare that is expressed due to the fear-based programming, okay? Because an individual will project this and express this, inflict this on another because it has been done to them. It is learned. Everything is learned. It is a programming, hence the patriarchy, passed down all the way through generations, that is inflicted on another. A lack of empathy and compassion. This is what the Great Awakening is all about. Individuals watching this YouTube video now, okay, are awake, will understand that a part of the awakening process is very much due to the dark night of the soul, is due to the pain, the trauma, and the suffering, okay, until one has had enough of the suffering. And then the matrix, we see society, the narcissism, that society and the level of it that it operates at. An empath, a highly sensitive, awakened individual, once they see severe narcissism in another, will never be able to interact with that individual ever again. They completely remove themselves from that. So the awakening process is seeing the narcissism of society and making a choice to love the self and unplug from that, because there is no winning with a society with this kind of fear-based programming. As we know, the only way to win that game is not to play the game. So to disconnect from that. Because by interacting with that, by having a consensus with that thing, that interaction only fuels that thing. Hence, which is quite symbolic at the moment, if we see in California, the fires that are taking place, okay, which is quite symbolic of gaslighting. Everything that I'm saying now is a huge gift. The light and the dark. Everything is a huge gift and a part of this amazing toolkit that one can use with awareness. So if you have been on the receiving end of gaslighting, psychological warfare, where there has been an abuse of power, okay, there has been polarity in this experience, all in essence, every single experience that is played out in our reality experiences has acted as the light in disguise, as a guide, encouraging you through painful experiences, through the trauma, to stand in your power. That is the healing of the divine masculine, of the wounded masculine becoming the divine masculine, is standing in one's power. All right, it doesn't take power over another. There is the feeling of powerlessness if someone needs to have power over another, to inflict pain on another, to play the psychological games with another. If there is gaslighting, that means that there is something powerful that is being attempted to be broken down. So all of this with the programming, of course, always to identify the shadow aspects of when what we are seeing in the reflection is a part of ourselves, or when we are interacting with a repeated cycle and it's the light in disguise, and sometimes the narcissism, the gaslighting, the intense situations, experiences that we go through are our guides getting very loud, asking us through these experiences to make the change within the self, in essence standing in one's power. So the masculine energy is standing in one's power, so being assertive, but this is heart-based consciousness. So yes, being assertive, being direct, also being the protector of the feminine energy, one's own feminine energy, and in relationships with a partner, being the protector, being assertive, direct, standing in one's power. So everything that happens externally, light or dark, no matter what it is all an opportunity to stand in one's power. Okay? Now this is what's happening on the world stage. In a world of narcissism, it is asking the collective to stand in their power and say, divine masculine energy, saying no to what no longer serves, saying no to mandatory vaccines. If you choose to, it's up to you with free will. Saying no to the perpetuation of a system that is clearly perpetuating pain and suffering for individuals far and wide. It's all an opportunity. The darkness getting loud as the light is flooding the earth plane. More individuals each and every day are embodying the light. So the darkness is losing its power, as I've spoken about, and many people have spoken about. The darkness is losing its power, and within this process, the darkness gets very loud, hence all the distractions that we see. Okay? The fires in California. Okay, the weaponizing of narratives, psychological warfare, the lies, the mistruths, the deception, the distractions, all the distraction and attempt to delay the ascension of the individual and the collective consciousness. It cannot be stopped, as the reality experience of 5D Earth and individuals in this realm of consciousness already exist. The future version of the self already exists. It cannot be stopped. It can only be delayed. So everything that's happening is all this huge gift at the moment, an opportunity for the collective consciousness, because the collective consciousness, that humanity is in control by pure numbers. So the elite, the 1%, okay, who have had control are the 1%. 99% of individuals have the say, if they choose to, standing together in oneness, peace, and love, and saying no to that which inflicts pain and suffering on the world. So it's also a case of these activations have taken place now, this energy update. I'm going to finish off now with this opening statement, and then we'll move to the questions. Okay. It can be turbulent at times. Okay. It can feel like we are completely being rewired. We are wired like we are off planet. Hence the ascension symptoms, the vertigo, the headaches, the blurred vision, the heart palpitations, the aches and pains, the nausea, the vomiting, all of the ascension symptoms. Also another indication which isn't mentioned much, an indication that a lot of light is flooding the earth plane and you are embodying a lot of light is when there's a lack of appetite. Okay, you're just not hungry, you don't eat all day. Because the energy source is the light itself. As we embody more light, we actually need to eat less food. So that's another symptom. And you'll notice that even if it takes 3-4 days, going through a deep purge, like this week, I had a few days of a deep purge. Okay? That there's this euphoric state of being. So there's the expansive state of being just after one has done the inner work and allowed the energy to move through the contracted states of being by just being present with the energy. So whatever's going on, the depression, the anger, the anxiety, whether it's a physicalized or emotional response to what is going on, by being present with the emotion, being okay with it, not judging the emotion as good or bad, right or wrong, just being with the energy itself. It's very simple, allows the process to unfold as it should. And so the energy will move and you will acclimate into the preferable expansive states of being. And it gets easier and easier. There are some challenging patches during this process. And due to when there's a lot of light moving into the physical form, when the light codes turn on, our DNA is activated, it can feel like one's going crazy at times, like you're losing your mind. It's because the programming that has resided as density within the physical vessel or has been reflected to us through our reality experience is being dismantled. And within this process, one feels off planet and loses grip on one's reality experience. So it can feel like you're going crazy, you're going nuts, you're losing it, but you are not. This is a very common ascension symptom. So just by being present, meditation, connecting with the breath, with nature, the energy will move and there will be clarity. And in this clarity, there is the euphoric state of being, peace, oneness, love, connection. The wounded masculine, okay, when operating as the wounded masculine, this is for both men and women, obviously, when I speak about the wounded masculine. When we cut off the emotions, we disconnect from source, okay, or the illusion of the disconnection to source, to our guides, to God. This is what happens. This is what, since the beginning of time, has happened to society, is the programming, the shutting off of the feelings, the disconnection to God. And this is when pain is inflicted on one another. So it's a journey back to oneness, to connection, and this is what's happening for the world right now. So that's pretty much the energy update. Okay, what's happening this week. So if you've been feeling uncomfortable and not very well, the contracted, less preferred states of being, just know that great changes are taking place. on an individual level, and the shift will be noticeable in the near future. Although this is a process and there's light flooding the earth plane all the time, but it gets easier and easier, and the reflection gets better and better and better. Trusting the process, that is key. Okay, so for those who have just joined, hello everyone. I hope that energy update has assisted, although let's allow this conversation now to flow. Okay, let's see what questions we have. I'm just going through these comments here. Yeah, so the ringing in the ears and hearing the different frequencies, okay, so there are two parts to this. The one part is obviously due to the high frequencies of light flooding the earth plane, whether it be the initial emission, okay, in the form of solar coding, the high frequencies, the plasma flooding the earth plane, you'll pick up on the higher frequencies flooding the earth plane. Also, when the earth's core is charged up, when the light is being grounded and the lightning discharges take place and there's an overflow of light, it is an awareness of the higher frequencies that are present. Okay, so it can be a very loud ringing in the ears. This is when you are in the midst of the light embodiment process. The second part of this is that often our higher self, okay, our guides, the beings of light, when they are in our presence and they are trying to get our attention, we will hear ringing in our ears. This works hand in hand with the high frequency light. If you're aware that obviously these beings of light operate from a much higher vibrational state of being, a higher frequency. So when they are in our presence, we are picking up on the higher frequencies from these beings of light that have come into our reality experience in order to deliver a message for us on an individual level or assist with an activation on an individual level. As we don't need to wait for any wave of light, in essence, on an individual level, by doing the inner work, by loving the self, acting with an integrity, you are going to acclimate automatically. And you can call in with conscious intention your guides, the beings of light, to come in and assist with activations on an individual level. So the ringing in the ears are your guides, the beings of light that are present in your field, and you are picking up on the high frequencies. Or it is the solar coding flooding in through the sun acting as a portal that is making contact with the earth grids that we are anchoring to the core of the earth. Okay, let me just see if there are any other questions. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to leave them in the comments, or if you just have a statement you would like to make. It doesn't have to be a question. If you'd like to just share an experience that you've been through, it can be from whenever, during your life experience, or recently, that you would like to share, because that will also take the form of a question. So yes, another comment here, just about someone, which is great, taking ownership, okay, that they're saying that they were aggressive, that perhaps they were angry and they acted out in a given situation. Okay, so this is very common during the awakening and ascension process with the light embodiment process. Anger, aggression, irritability is another form of an ascension symptom. Because of the light, one can become very irritable. The anger can come up. Okay, this is also a part of the programming. And then one can also be triggered by another. So the key during this process is to understand that this is perfectly normal and not to get angry at the self for being angry, not to get irritated at the self for being irritated, not to judge the self. Judgment is a heavy form of programming in itself, and we will never speak to ourselves, okay, more than the self. The most conversation we'll ever have is the conversation with the self. Okay, so to be kind to the self, to love the self, not to judge the self. If one is angry, sometimes it's justified. Okay, I've chatted to clients about this before. It's okay to be angry. If you have been through an experience that was uncomfortable, where an individual, okay, there was manipulation and abuse of power, where someone inflicted harm on you, it's okay. It is valid to be angry. So not to be angry for being angry, to be angry and be okay with it. It is valid. But also understanding that being angry over a given situation for a extended period of time is punishing the self for someone else's mistake. Okay, even though it is not a mistake, all perfectly designed, every single interaction, and all in service with awareness of that interaction from a higher perspective. So very key to be gentle with the self during the onset, okay, the manifestation of the ascension symptoms, the depression, the anger, and to do our best to be the calm within the storm, because sometimes interactions with family members who may not understand the process that you are going through, that we are going through, is just to be gentle with the self and others to the best of the ability. And if there is a projection, or if there is a response from a place of anger, is not to get angry at the self for doing so. Okay. Okay, here's a question from Heather. Doug and I have a healing practice. How can I channel this high frequency gamma light coming in for my clients? Are there specific things I should ask to help me to do this? Okay, that's a great question. The information, the communication in the way that it is designed is specifically designed for you, the individual, and each individual is an individual, and the information will be delivered and portrayed in a unique way for your own understanding. Okay. Always key to go back to the basics. As human beings, we overcomplicate things. All right. In essence, channeling is heart-based consciousness and setting the conscious intention to connect with the beings of light. So some people may never initially set an intention or say, I call in the beings of light to come in, because they have the belief that they are always connected, always one with the beings of light. And their crown is always opening, their heart is always opening. So in essence, they are always channeling. They are walking channels with everything that they do and every interaction in life. Although it may be of assistance, okay, during meditation, what is key to also acclimate to receive the upgrades, okay, and also to make it a smoother process. Meditation, I would always strongly suggest meditation. In any given situation, I sometimes only for a few minutes, okay, at least every day go into meditation, and I connect with the heart. Through the heart space, all right, then it's also okay acting as giving the self permission to connect with other aspects of the self. In meditation, set the intention or ask out loud or in the mind's eye for the beings of light to come in and to assist you with the channeling. Once you do this, sometimes our guides do require our permission, okay, because we are in charge of this reality experience. By asking, they will come through every single time. And in meditation, through connecting with the breath, you're going to raise your vibrational frequency, and you are going to, in essence, meet them halfway. Okay, we have to meet these beings of light halfway in order for the full expression of the energy to be channeled through and to be felt by the individuals who you may be having the one-on-one sessions with, or any form of interaction with any individual, whether they are a client or a family member. Okay, from heart-based consciousness, setting a conscious intention to bring through light from a place of love is in essence channeling. And you will be channeling beings of light. You will be channeling your guides. The path of least resistance, the quickest way always, okay, to connect with these beings of light is self-love, is self-care. So also getting the rest, high vibrational foods will assist, drinking plenty water, meditation, connecting with nature. Taking your shoes off, if you can't get out into nature, just by taking your shoes off and grounding outside for a few minutes, connect to the earth grids through the heart space. Okay, there is a natural healing that takes place through connecting through the grids, through Gaia, when we operate from heart-based consciousness. Same principle applies. Gaia, she is alive, okay? Gaia is also, in essence, a guide. So if you would like to connect with your guide, Gaia, then you would set a conscious intention from heart-based consciousness, take your shoes off, connect with your breath, and imagine yourself connecting with the core of the earth, okay, and connecting with the 5D grid and the 6D grid. So the same principle applies with your guides and sessions. If you're interested in channeling, channeling can take the shape of many forms. It's not only vocal, it's also just pure energy that is expressed through interactions by embodiment. So the embodiment of the energy, in essence, is channeling these beings of light. You become a walking healing modality where everyone you interact with, you are assisting, inviting them to that frequency. Thus, if they choose to, from a place of love, will in essence activate themselves without saying a word. Embodiment, vocal channeling, creative expression in the form of art. Okay? Everything that we do from heart-based consciousness carries codes with it. The sun emissions carry codes. We activate, thus become a healing modality in essence. And through the channeling of this energy, we are then coding that given thing within that experience. So artwork, okay, in the form of poetry, there is coding in the writing, in the words, and everything that we do. Singing, songwriting, even sportsmen and women who enter the channeling state, okay? The channeling state is alignment, is the flow state, if you've heard people speak about. When you are in alignment, you are connected, one heart-based consciousness, where we don't allow, also important, limiting beliefs to get in the way of the channel, of the information flowing through. More often than not, the majority of the resistance is a limiting belief, acting as resistance between you and accomplishing that feat. So being aware of the limiting beliefs, setting a conscious intention, going into meditation, ask for the beings of light to come through. And a great way to do this, if you are just starting out with clients, is if you're a vocal channel, or however you wish to go about expressing this, is to find a friend, someone who's not going to judge you, not going to judge how the information comes through. Like what I'm doing right now, get them to ask you questions, okay? In a space of zero judgment. Get them to ask you any question whatsoever. It can be completely random. And just answer by putting the physical mind, the ego mind aside for a minute, by not focusing too much on the words coming out of your mouth, and just allow for the information to come through. That is channeling. Allowing the ego to step aside for a minute. Okay, the limiting beliefs that, am I talking nonsense? Is this really channeling or anything like that? Don't judge the self. And practice with the individual sitting opposite you. Question, answer. And you can do it back and forth, and it's actually very fun. So practice. If it excites you, if it's really fun, if it's blissful to you, then that's an indication from your guides that that is something for you. Okay, there is truth in the design of the inception of the idea that you have on how to go about expressing it or investigate the art of channeling. Okay. The contracted states of being that we feel. Okay, I spoke about purging. That's one of them. That in essence, we're releasing programming as well with that thing. The contracted states of being is when energy is moving through the physical form, okay, through a belief system that is out of alignment with the truth of who we are as being of light, as an expression of the one, as limitless beings. Okay, so a belief that I'm not good enough, I'll never be able to channel, I'll never be able to have that amazing relationship. What if I make a mistake? Going into fear, the contracted states of being, that energy is a notification system from your guides letting you know that you have a belief that is acting as resistance. It is a limitation. So practice through feeling, your intuition, the energy moving through your body when you have a thought crop up about the self or another. Expansive is free-flowing, it is truth. And it is practice. The light flooding the earth plane right now, calling in your guides will assist with this. And if you find yourself battling with this, there is an ingenious toolkit design in that as well for when you do make that breakthrough. When you stand in your power, you will now, without a shadow of a doubt, let go of that limiting belief because you spend so much time suffering with that limiting belief. Okay. So practice and enjoyment and allowing the information just to flow through you unrestricted, without judging the self, and you'll see miracles happen and you'll see information flow through you, and you'll have moments of epiphany where you'll say to yourself, how did I know that? How is that possible? And you will prove it to yourself by trusting the self that without a shadow of doubt, you are channeling your guides. You are channeling your higher self. There is a higher intelligence involved. Thank you, everybody, for coming online if you're new, and thanks for the kind words and comments. That's a great question. Thank you, Enrique. Yes, this came into my awareness, obviously, the other day. Okay, so do I have any favorite books that I've read? So early on during my awakening process, it was amazing how, and I've spoken about this before, when we set a conscious intention for something, the information just finds us. So when it came to reading material and books, okay, the information just found me. I never went and actually purchased the book or looked for anything. It found me. I set an intention to dive deeper into spirituality, and the information found me. The information will flow through the path of least resistance. So it can come through a friend of yours, which it did on occasion. It can come through social media, but the information will always find you when we set the intention. So that question right now, all right, some of the information may flow through me today in this video that may interest you, but also through tapping into your own guidance. Okay, how does it feel when I mention these books, or when you go and research or look up these books, and how does it feel? It's always very much suggested, regardless of any information traveling through anyone or anything, okay, to tap into one's own guidance and to feel into it. Either way, the information will find you. So, an obvious book, okay, that found me early on was actually a book that's not that well known, I don't think, but it's called The Miracle Morning. Okay, and I don't want to give it away. It's called The Miracle Morning. And basically in this book, this guy was a very good salesperson, and he was living in the 3D world, doing very well, but then he got into a car accident and his life fell apart. And basically he tapped into his own guidance, and during the end he wrote this book called The Miracle Morning. Okay, and he takes you through the process of how he started meditating, and he started using affirmations. He started dressing better, looking after the self, loving himself. And the book ended up doing very well. So it is actually a well-known book. You may not have heard of it, but it is a pretty well-known book. The Miracle Morning, a very quick and easy read. And it's to do with routine in the morning. So waking up an hour early, getting, even if it's only 5-10 minutes exercise, meditating, affirmations. And it's to do with this individual's awakening and how he went through it and how it completely transformed his life and how everything that ever happened to him was a gift. The Miracle Morning. The second book that I've read, that was fantastic, by Bruvalo Micheldek, The Flower of Life. Okay, there are a few volumes, I think, but that was one of the first books when I was exploring spirituality. And wow, years later, how genius that information, all channeled information in that book. The Micheldek consciousness, he goes into sacred geometry, he goes into and explores many, many different experiences in terms of tapping into higher consciousness states, sacred geometry, how the universe was created, all a very interesting perspective, and divine intelligence that comes through. There's also some astrology in that book, but obviously very much the core message being the flower of life, how everyone and everything is connected. The discovery of this in Egypt. So there's a lot to do with the Sirius alignment, the Sirius star system alignment with Egypt, which is very, very relevant according to the human experience. So there's a lot about Egypt. There's some history in there. Very, very well-known book. I mean, 90% of the people will know about the flower of life in this book. Also, I've got it right here. This was probably the greatest book in terms of my personal experience during and after reading this book. Okay, Apprentice to the Masters, Adventures of a Western Mystic by Peter Mount Shasta. Okay, he changed his name to Mount Shasta, and he worked very closely with Saint Germain, the Ascended Master Saint Germain. And this was absolutely, truly magical when I read this, because when I read this is when my psychic senses amplified. So I was getting my own intel already, whether it be through dream state or any kind of interaction. And my guides would explain it to me in a way that would correlate with the book, okay? Why I went through certain experiences, even though they were very unpleasant at times, like we've all been through unpleasant scenarios. And they proved to me, in fact, that I was actually following my guidance, even though the experiences were unpleasant, because certain interactions needed to take place with certain individuals. But this is another book I would suggest. Adventures of a Western Mystic by Peter Mount Shasta. Okay, and he worked very closely with Saint Germain. He had interactions with Saint Germain, okay, in the flesh. And how he went on the most incredible journeys by following his guidance, even though it seemed absolutely crazy. Some of the guidance that came through and where he was directed to and what he had to go through when he had no money and he was asked to get on a flight to Israel, I think was one of his experiences, and he followed his guidance and abundance appeared out of nowhere and he made it through. So this is a book that I would suggest if you're interested in the Ascended Masters, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what the experience is like. Saint Germain works with the violet flame. So Peter Mount Shasta came up with that mantra, I am the violet consuming flame in action, dissolving and consuming any density within my reality experience acting as resistance from my mind, body, and world. His mantra is along those lines. I am the violet consuming flame in action, if you're familiar with it, which is a great way through meditation, if you go into that space and by repeating this mantra to dissolve, release, and cleanse any density within the physical vessel, the auric field, within the reality experience, that mantra. So that's a book. Then an obvious one. So I was never a big reader ever, but all these books found me. And the next one was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, which is extremely powerful. So obviously a bestseller, world-renowned. What I loved most about that book was the beginning part where he explained what happened to him, okay, where he went through the severe depression, and all of a sudden there was a white light, okay? So he went through a massive trigger awakening, Eckhart Tolle. And hence he connected with divine information and is channeling information in the book, one of them, The Power of Now. So that's another book I'd suggest about being present. He absolutely masters the art of being present, the awareness behind our thought processes, and how to master the self. So Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, that's another book. So those are 4 books that I found that were an extremely helpful toolkit in assisting me with my own healing and also navigating my reality experience. The biggest question I ever get is, how do I find my purpose? Well, okay, this is one of the ways, and every experience that we go through within our reality experience is a part of the purpose, okay? And what came through to me the other day, I shared with a client, is that no one will ever really be able to. They can give you big clues, but be able to tell you what your purpose is, because it is extremely powerful when we have that epiphany, when there is clarity on what our own purpose is, because we answer it for ourselves. Because we connect with our guides, we get the answer for ourselves. And when we have that epiphany, that moment in time, when we trace that back all the way to childhood, the initial states of consciousness within this incarnation, it is going to be so obvious. It will blow your mind. So a lot of people here will know their purpose already, some may not. When you answer it for yourself, it is going to blow your mind because you have known what your purpose is all along. Before dropping into the physical form, it's what you signed up for. Okay? So you knew within your blueprint what you were going to experience, and through awakening, ascending in consciousness, we are remembering who we are. So we collide with our purpose in a moment that is expressed or felt like an epiphany. And it is obvious, that aha moment, because every single experience, light, dark, from childhood up until that moment in time, has been necessary and perfect, and the toolkit, which is a part, an integral part of your purpose. So you answer it yourself, and you'll be thankful when you do answer it for yourself. Although you can attract channels into your life, you can attract people by setting a conscious intention to give you clues. There are so many clues that manifest in the form of synchronicities within your reality experience that are assisting you with answering this question. Okay? No matter what, you are on the right track, no matter what it looks like. Sometimes we may act out of alignment within our experience, and that's fine. But sometimes that is the path of least resistance, that dark night of the soul, the mistakes we made, okay? That was the path of least resistance. So to trust the self, trust the process, set the conscious intention, assistance with regards to the information on my purpose, and it will come through to you. Like the books I spoke about, like anything, you will attract it. It will manifest in your life. And there will be answers, and it will be obvious. Also, why it's crucial that one, answers this question for themselves in terms of their purpose is because when it's answered for the self and it's obvious, there isn't any doubt, our belief system, okay, will support us with the manifestation of the experiences in alignment with that purpose. So fulfilling our purpose, expressing ourselves as the unique frequency expression. When we answer it ourselves, there is no doubt, thus there is no limiting belief that will act as resistance. So you will not fail moving forward. There is no chance. Only a limiting belief, falling into the fear trap, self-doubt, will act as resistance between you free-flowing and being illuminated in the action of your purpose. It's the belief system, answering for ourselves. There is no doubt, no resistance, free-flowing, 5D consciousness, instant manifestation, a life of bliss. Okay. Okay, I've been going for about an hour now. So let's see if there's one more question. I'm sure that I'll be doing plenty of these moving forward. There will be, no doubt. Yes. So I hope so. Out of those 4 books, I'm sure there's one of them, all very well known. And a lot of magic in all of them. So thanks for these questions. They're great questions. And I hope that this information, that you can take something out of these conversations and it'll be of assistance. Okay. I'm just going to answer one more question. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the question is, how can one quicken the ascension symptoms? So, okay, obviously the uncomfortable contracted states of being, less preferred. We would like to sometimes get out of that because it's uncomfortable. We want to hurry things up. Paradoxically, the quickest way to move through the uncomfortable states of being is to be present with that energy, like I've spoken about before. So not to judge the depression, the anger, the anxiety that comes up, to be present. And without judging it, we are not adding resistance to the energy. What we resist persists, okay, and lengthens that process. So just by being okay with it, it's not the first time we've been depressed or angry or upset. We know it passed. The contracted states of being are temporary. They are always temporary. So by being present with it, allows the energy to move. It's the paradox. That is the quickest way. Because during ascension, when I say it gets easier, dark nights of the soul, okay, in the form of this massive purge within our reality experience, okay, then turns into five days of purging, of feeling the uncomfortable states of being. Then it turns into 3 days, then into 2 days. So as we acclimate, we embody more light, we become masters of our own reality experience, we're doing the inner work, we are loving the self. The time it takes to process the energy becomes less and less and less. Thus, the contracted, uncomfortable states of being become less and less and fewer and farther between. That is the paradox, and that is paradoxically the quickest way to acclimate to the expansive state of being. Okay, let's see if we got one more. Yeah, that's also a very good question. See, Cam, so about jumping timelines, okay? All right, and yes, so there are more and more people who are becoming aware, which is very obvious. If you look at what's happening with the mainstream media at the moment, all over the world, but in the United States, look at the information that's recently been released through mainstream media. Okay. All right, so a lot of it is very dark at the moment that I've spoken about before, but it's necessary with the process of the Great Awakening for the darkness to be made conscious. Also, I've never read any of his books, but sorry, this just came through now. Information that found me early on during my awakening were the works of Carl Jung. Higher intelligence on another level. Okay, Carl Jung. So it was I never read any of the books that he wrote, but certain articles and information found me, and to do with psychology, the human being and the archetypes. And he goes so much further, all the way back in those days, as to, the shadow aspect, okay, making the unconscious conscious, the higher intelligence that's involved was really ingenious. So if you want to understand the psyche of the human being, seeing things from a higher perspective, if you want to understand the shadow aspect, the masculine and feminine archetypes, the whole design of the human being, I would suggest Carl Jung. Everyone knows who Carl Jung is, but reading material, that is on another level, and it's fantastic. So jumping timelines, yes, definitely we can find ourselves, okay, during the awakening and ascension, okay, jumping timelines. We can find ourselves moving through, especially in dream state, into the parallel reality experiences. Thus, all realities taking place simultaneously in the here and now. If you listen to Eckhart, there is only here and now, that is presence. All realities exist simultaneously, the past, present, okay, and the future. So we find ourselves often, but there's great service in this, tapping into other timelines, okay, tapping into past lives. We'll have past life regressions, where even though we won't understand the experience itself, whether it is unconscious or conscious, whether it is in dream state, or whether you have a vision, full-blown vision with your third eye, you are tapping into the energy of this timeline, because there is a co-creation where your future self and your past self, okay, and the self that is perceived to be in the present moment right now, although we are shifting all the time, are assisting one another. There is a collaboration in terms of information being shared, okay, and there is great healing in this. But often at times it's very confusing. You'll have dreams that won't make sense. You'll be tapping into something for some reason, not knowing why. There is a communication going on, and there is an energetic healing taking place. All right, all in the name of service. So through awakening, it can seem like we're going crazy at times. You'll find yourself tapping into other reality experiences. So not only in terms of the human experience of the past and the future, but also other dimensions, so our multidimensional aspects. So the beings of light, you may have an Arcturian aspect, a Pleiadian aspect, a Sirian aspect. Okay, those are aspects of you. Those are, in essence, other incarnations of you. So, same principle applies here. You tap into this guidance by saying the conscious intention, or it will just happen automatically, and these beings of light will come in who are multidimensional aspects of you. And there is a higher intelligence being relayed, and they are assisting with the ascension. So there is communication, there's energetic healing that takes place by tapping into these higher dimensional realms of existence. Jumping timelines, tapping into other realms of consciousness, gathering all the information, activating the self, assisting with clearing, transmuting what no longer serves. Okay, for broader understanding, heightened awareness from a higher perspective, and utilizing this in this reality experience. Because you are conscious and aware in this reality experience, if you are listening to this right now, this is the most exciting place to be. We all signed up for this because it was fantastic. Even though it's Been really challenging at times. It's the World Cup of the universe. The Earth is the World Cup right now. Okay? If you think of the football, the soccer World Cup, that's probably the most televised event in the world, right? So the world, the collective right now, humanity, on a universal level, is the World Cup right now, the Great Awakening. So all eyes are on us and what we are doing, and we get to experience it. So how cool is that? All right. So that's it for today. I think I'll finish off there. That's the energy update. I may have been a little bit all over the place at times here, but I hope that you can take a little bit out of what I said and you've enjoyed this energy update. If it has been turbulent, just know not only you, the collective's going through this as well. And just to find balance, I would always suggest meditation, grounding, drinking plenty of water, loving the self, not judging the self, being the calm within the storm. Okay. Also, just check the limitations that would be suggested on social media, and also major media outlets, whatever information's coming through, always to check in with the self. Okay, tap into your own guidance. We all know this already. But there's also, like I said, with coding and everything that we do, okay, if someone's acting out of alignment, there's also coding in that. So if there's a news broadcaster that is spreading a mistruth, if it's manipulation, if it comes from, doesn't come from a place of love, there is also coding in this, okay? And that energy can affect us. Everything is energy, so the energy will affect us. That's why sometimes we feel drained on social media at times when we're reading certain articles or we watch a program like on Netflix. I saw the other day that there's some controversy there about one of the programs. I didn't look too much into it that they're showing, okay? A while ago, I noticed that Netflix, not every show, but some of them I just couldn't watch because of the energy in them. Okay, not that it's extremely dark, it's just that when we shift in consciousness, what we used to be able to watch or expose ourselves to, because we embody more light, now that contrast just stands out so much more. And the frequencies that travel through in the form of programming, through the television, through the media, it's doesn't sit well, okay? And our guides are letting us know, no, maybe don't expose yourself too much to that. It is draining our energy and maybe draining your energy. So sometimes I find myself also too much on social media. Okay, I'm only really on there when I'm posting things, but sometimes, there'll be articles that come through, interesting posts. So I try to limit my time there. I don't really watch television at all anymore. An odd movie once in a blue moon. I'll stick to golf because golf's in nature. I watch the PGA Tour because there's good energy coming through in that programming, and it's something I love, and that's one of my excitements. So like I said, by following our bliss, that is one of the ways in which we all align with the information flowing through as to our purpose, but also just time to relax and being the awareness of what we are exposing ourselves to, whether it be relationships, television, programming. Trying to keep the experience as light as possible always will be of the greatest benefit. So that's the energy update for today. Okay, this is my first live. I will get better and better and better at doing these. I will answer more and more questions, and I'll keep doing these. I hope that everyone's enjoyed this. Have a fantastic week moving forward, and enjoy, everyone. Goodbye for now.